because aviation is a sector where the emissions are very high and any tweak to the technology is very difficult. But at the same time, a commitment that we said we're going to do it is in the betterment of humanity. Technology is the key. That is who we are. And that is what we are able to provide to our customers to meet the emerging needs. And as we go forward, we will do that in a very sustainable manner. Now, I keep talking about civil aviation because the engines are operated a lot more in the civil side than in the defense side. But then aerospace is aerospace, and we will continue to do the testing for all our engines because at the end of the day, it is all our products, all our services, all our factories, and it will be all meeting the net zero target by 2050.
Hello and welcome to a very special podcast series, Unusual Suspects. I'm your host, Gaurav Chaudhary. This is a series about unraveling stories of entrepreneurs, investors, and businesses and professionals who are disruptors yet not in your face. Their disruptions have consistently delivered on the purpose and the mission they've embarked on. Their values are as strong as the mission. While they're ruthless in pursuing their ambition, they don't stray from being leaders who are not just admired for the vision and relentless pursuit, but also for how they're building an ecosystem of believers who consistently push the boundaries. They allow principles to take precedence over ad hocism. For them, profitability is as important as scale, creating and leading new categories and innovations. In each episode, I speak to one such leader, talking to her or him or them about their businesses, lives, inspirations, interests, challenges, pivot moments and turning points, successes, failures, agonies and ecstasies, and of course the little joys. It is as much about their personal life stories as about their entrepreneurial and professional journeys. Unusual Suspects streams on Earshot.in, Spotify.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, MoneyControl.com, and a host of other podcast streaming platforms. For this episode, I'm delighted to have Kishore Jayaraman, President for Rolls-Royce India and South Asia. Since taking over the role 10 years ago, Kishore has been instrumental in driving strategic focus and significant expansion across the Rolls-Royce civil aerospace, defense, and power systems businesses. A strong proponent of technology innovation, he led the establishment of Rolls-Royce's digital and engineering capabilities in India that now contribute significantly to global development projects. He also leads the growth of the company's manufacturing and sourcing footprint in India through joint ventures with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Force Motors, as well as other key partnerships. Welcome to Unusual Suspects, Kishore. Delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's a pleasure to be here.
Kishore, let's start off with a very basic question. What is Rolls-Royce doing differently to meet the climate change goals? What is Rolls-Royce India's role and contribution to the global sustainability vision? Kishore?
Gaurav, I think way back in 2020, it seems like a long time ago now, but it's not. We joined the UN Race to Zero coalition, and we said we will reach net zero by 2050. And I think it's a very big commitment because aviation is a sector where the emissions are very high and any tweak to the technology is very difficult. But at the same time, a commitment that we said we're going to do it is in the betterment of humanity. And so we had to invest a lot of money in our R&D in order to develop products, in order to change the existing products or innovate the existing products so they will be able to meet the challenges of net zero. And we had to make sure our services kept pace with it. We had to make sure that we had our factories and everything that we touch has the net zero touch to it. And I think all this cannot be done without the transformation potential of technology. Technology is the key. That is who we are. And that is what we are able to provide to our customers to meet the emerging needs. And as we go forward, we will do that in a very sustainable manner. Now, when we come to India and Rolls-Royce India's role in this entire net zero goal of ours, we have a large engineering base in India. We support well over 2,500 people in India who do engineering work for us globally. we also have a very large digital team. And these two, the engineering team and the digital team, form the backbone for our technology globally from India. And these teams were relatively new. Engineering is something we started a long time back, but our digital team is relatively new. And the very short span of time, they've been able to show through the data that we already had, and with the new computing power and the new storage that we have gathered, to be able to show, what are the potential places we can innovate and improve. And using this, when we can innovate and improve, we will do that in a very sustainable fashion. And I think that is what is happening as we speak today. Providing more R&D investment, technology being the backbone, engineering and digital from India, these are the key themes that will help us meet the net zero target by 2050.
Kishore, can you elaborate on the strategy that Rolls-Royce has drawn to ensure that both military and civilian aircraft leave a very low carbon footprint? Kishore?
You see, Gaurav, this is a journey. Yes, we have the goal of 2050 for reaching the net zero target, but it has to happen in steps. And the way I believe these things happen is it goes from a phase where it is ideation, and it goes into implementation, and the next step is innovation. But in some ways, we are having to do this, all at the same time, because we have to ideate in some places, we have to innovate in some places, and we have to implement in some places. So in that spirit of things, the journey for us is, let us look at disruptive technologies like electrical, like introducing, sort of fuel cells, like introducing new technologies that are not prevalent today that will disrupt the existing technologies. And that will form the ideation phase. But the innovation phase is an incremental improvement to our existing products. And to that effect, we say that 50% SAF, I think our products are already all ready to serve the market with. And we want to reach 100% SAF by the end of 2023. And we are working in that direction. All our business aviation jets are Trent engines. Now, I keep talking about civil aviation because the engines are operated a lot more in the civil side than in the defense side. But then aerospace is aerospace, and we will continue to do the testing for all our engines, because at the end of the day, it is all our products, all our services, all our factories, and it will be all meeting the net zero target by 2050. But then you also have to look at the other side, which is our power systems business. And we have to look at it and say, there are engines which are diesel engines. Now, what are the things that will go to improve the diesel side, converted from diesel into HVO operations, hydrogen operations, and various other things, and they are also present in the defense side of things. And so we basically come back and say, whether it's civil or defense, we look at the products that we have and the services we provide. And we look at what does it take for us to go from where we are to a point where we're going to reach net zero. And I think it's a journey. As we talk more about this, I'm sure I can elaborate more examples of what all we are doing in order to make this happen for us. Gaurav?
Kishore, how significant is the Air India order for Rolls-Royce, and has it changed the company's equation in the market? Kishore?
Look, Air India, we are very, very thankful for Air India choosing us as their partner with their expansion plans. And we are very proud and privileged to be a part of the Air India fleet. Our XWB engines, which will be powering the Airbus 350-1000s and the Airbus 350-900s, is one of the most efficient, most safe and reliable engines that has ever been produced. And we are very proud to say that a lot of these engines already are SAF compatible. So I think as Air India embarks on its journey, they are already looking at having engines that will be going towards the net zero goal. And I think that's a great thing for Air India's fleet when they are expanding really, very strongly, because with 470 aircrafts, it's a large deal and they're expanding very substantially. And I think to be expanding it sustainably makes that airline that much more powerful. And I think, at the end of the day, India is growing. And I think Air India's fleet expansion comes at the most apt time. And India is looking at making India a hub for global travel, not only for Indians to go overseas, but for probably becoming a hub that will connect Asia to the West. And I think these are all very ambitious plans, out of which this whole Air India deal becomes a very critical part. And so to be part of such a critical part for us is definitely a privilege.
Kishore, what are the key disruptive innovations that Rolls-Royce is working on? How disruptive will ACCEL, the world's first all-electric plane, be? Will it mark a point of inflection in the era of aviation, Kishore?
Look, like I said, I think this is a journey, right? In 2020, the signing happened to go towards net zero by 2050. So we got 30 years. And I think as we look at it, we got to take our existing products and services and convert them to be able to operate more efficiently, reliably, and safely, not compromising those three things, but also very sustainably. And so SAF was a natural progression for that. And I think going more and more into SAF will be the near immediate future. But then at some point in time, the technology has to be developed. And we have taken the first step in that direction. We have proven with this, with the electrical aircraft that is able to sort of a prototype that is able to fly and reach speeds and cover distances. And we only will continue to work on that, keep pushing those boundaries, and it'll take some time. But there is a certain tipping point that will happen wherein these will transform the convergence between the SAF or the hydrogen as a fuel, or the fuels becoming a part on one side, driving aviation, and the other side being the electrification that is happening. And at some point, these two will combine together, and there might be a hybrid version in between, which is right now, which is not, something we know for sure. But that will be before we move to total electric aircraft carrying passengers globally. There will be a form where these things will all come together. And I think that is the journey I'm talking about. And without the journey happening, I don't think, it is going to be as confident. It is not going to be a play where you can say very, very confidently, it is going to be safe, it is going to be reliable, it's going to be efficient. So we will reach that point only when these three factors are taken care of. Safety is a priority. People are being transported, so there'll be no compromise to that. But at the same time, we will not stop in reaching that point where we will transport people safely with electric aircraft. Hydrogen is going to play a very important role, but what is more important is green hydrogen. Producing hydrogen using fossil fuels ruins the purpose. So I think when you have green hydrogen coming out and you're using green hydrogen to fuel the fuel cells, and then it will help our drive systems, our power systems business, and it will help us in, again, reaching our goals towards net zero. So overall, as we look at it, it's not just electrical, it is not just sustainable fuels, it is not just hydrogen, it is going to be a combination of everything that is going to converge. And it's going to lead to incremental innovation, is going to lead to disruptive innovation at some point in time in the future.
Kishore, what role is Rolls-Royce playing in the Team Tempest Combat Aircraft program, one of the UK's most ambitious technological endeavours? Kishore?
Well, we are partners with the Ministry of Defence, with BAE, Leonardo, MBDA. It's a consortium that's been formed in order to create the future for combat air systems, right? And it is being done in the UK. The intent is for it to enter service from 2035. And, we have a lot of experience with the engines in the defense side. We use our latest digital technologies. We used our engineering experience from the civil aircraft engines to the defense aerospace engines, and we are working with them in creating the engine of the future for the FCAS program. And I think the intent is that there will be a flying, sort of a demonstrator program that will probably be ready to take flight within the next 4 years. So I think all this is happening, and I think it is very, very exciting to be a part of that program. And I believe that in the future, we will definitely see something that is going to be a marvel for all of us to, Aisha, I don't know what to call it because it's a fighter aircraft. I wouldn't say enjoy, but for all of us to sort of be completely thrilled with. But it's a futuristic program.
Kishore, you have earlier said that Rolls-Royce is committed to making all its products compatible with sustainability aviation fuel, SAF. You have committed to making all its Trent engines compatible with 100% SAF by 2023. At this point in time, how far are you from achieving that target, Kishore?
Well, Gaurav, we are at about 50% on the SAF blend. I think all the engines, the Trent engines, the business aviation engines, are all ready to operate on 50% SAF blend, along with the traditional fossil fuels. And our goal is to reach 100% on all our Trent and business aviation engines by the end of this year. And we are on track.
Kishore, the engines the company provides, how do you compare with others in the market technology-wise?
Look, I mean, all of us strive to be at the cutting edge of technology, to be the best amongst all our peers. And to that effect, I think Rolls-Royce leads the pack. But what is very, very important for all of us to understand is that number one, foremost, is safety. And our products are future ready. And more importantly, our products are future ready very safely, right? We constantly work on improving the efficiency. We work on improving the reliability. We try to allow the airlines to operate their aircraft to their utmost limits. By monitoring these engines online every single second that they're up in the air, by being able to, every time an engine is turned on, by being able to record parameters, understand the patterns that are emerging in the engine as it sort of accelerates to the peak performance levels, all these things are constantly monitored. And what this gives us is enormous amount of data that we analyze to the core and make sure we understand to prevent problems. Not only that, we are able to look at the data, and when the engine comes to our repair shop or service shop, we're able to say that this engine went through this profile and this is what has happened to the parts, put this feedback into the system and use our artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques and make sure that we have more and more of predictive maintenance, more and more ways of preventing any catastrophe from happening. So digital is the biggest advantage that we have in our portfolio with our extremely strong engineering capability. Gaurav?
Kishore, in your power systems business, can you elaborate on the solutions that the company is developing for lower emissions and lower environmental impact? Kishore?
Well, I think the first thing is, look, diesel engines are there and diesel engines will be there for a long period of time, but the way it is a journey, just like in the aviation sector. So in order for us to reach to where we want to go, I think it is very important that we have intermediate steps that take us there. So the intermediate steps for us are things like hydrogenated vegetable oil, and then it is to have power to liquid fuels such as e-diesel. It is to have fuels like hydrogen. And so all these things, we have got our products, all of them being certified for using these fuels. And I think that is the first step for us. And then as we go forward, we will keep making sure that whatever benefits we are deriving or whatever learnings we are creating for ourselves through the rest of our portfolios in aviation, in defense, in marine, will all be applied into the power systems business as well.
Kishore, finally, you had earlier said that Rolls-Royce is keen to work with India to co-develop and manufacture engines for the country's fifth generation fighter aircraft program, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. Would you elaborate on that? Who will own the IP rights for the engines if these were to be developed locally? Kishore?
Well, Gaurav, I think, if we want to achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have to have the ability to create our own IP. And I think the co-development project that we are proposing to the Indian government, to all the stakeholders in India, is that IP will be owned here in India. And the reason for that is, with that IP is when one can actually go in there, create our own supply chains, which will increase our manufacturing locally. And these are absolutely important for our self-reliance strategy. And without that, it will be a borrowed technology that we will end up getting some technology transfer and then creating supply chains as needed, but without a clear way of saying, this is mine, this is how I want to do it, this is how I want to improve it, and this is where I want to take this to. And the classic example is what we did with Chandrayaan 3. I think we developed it. It is our technology. Everything is ours. And there is nobody to ask any questions to. And we are able to go and say that, how will I improve this? Do I go to Mars? Do I go to Neptune after this? I have the technology. I can put our scientists and engineers to work on it. And I will have the ability to create the supply chains within India for that. And if I need to have supply chains overseas, I have the ability to go and do it overseas. So I think that is what it's all about. That's what Atmanirbhar Bharat is about. And that's what Rolls-Royce is willing to do, is to co-develop an engine along with India to make sure that it's not only for the needs of India, but can also be used for exports overseas.
Thank you, Kishore. Thank you so much for taking the time out and dropping by to have this conversation and sharing your deep insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaurav. It was a pleasure.